Could your box of crayons use some more colors? Let's add a few new shades to your musical palette by mixing things up with mixed modes and borrowed chords. This is Music Student 101. Here are your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
And a good day to you, Dr. Phillips.
And a good day to you, Master Burns.
And a good day to you, all of our listeners.
Welcome back.
I hope this podcast finds you in good health and in good time.
Indeed.
Matt, you had a pretty busy week last week, huh?
It's been a week. It's been a week, yeah. This is the time in the semester when being bright-eyed and bushy-tailed can be a lot to ask from the students and from the professors and from anyone.
Well, here on a Sunday, you seem pretty bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but you had Saturday to get over it, huh?
Yeah, lots and lots and lots of coffee.
Well, great, man. As you had a pretty busy week beforehand, I will be having a very busy week. In this coming week, it is Sunday. We are recording for the coming week. Hopefully, this podcast will come out that Sunday. Monday evening, I'm leaving, and I'll be out of town until actually Sunday, and then I maybe have a few minutes to work on this, and then work Monday. But hey, we'll see, man. If you're listening to this on the Sunday when it's supposed to be released, I guess that just makes me a rock star producer. But if not, I'll go ahead and apologize in advance.
Go ahead and apologize in advance for a brief lateness.
Yes, exactly. So.
We have to go make money. They don't just give it to us, which would be better, but...
I know. These ones and zeros are not going to pay for themselves.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
Now, for quite some time, we've been talking about the idea of blowing up tonality.
A little bit, yeah.
And though we haven't officially blown up tonality, here we stand with our fingers quivering over the button. Over the shiny red button.
This is kind of the phase we're in now is kind of the, come on, man, shake up tonality a little bit. All the cool kids are doing it. It's kind of like we're walking into the bathroom where everybody's doing borrowed chords. Like, you don't want any of this. What are you guys doing?
That makes me think of Walk Hard.
Yeah, that's where I got that. Yeah.
You don't want none of this.
You don't want none of this.
It's so great, you just don't want it. Oh, man. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get into it, shall we?
Yes, let's do so.
We have ourselves a review.
We have a new review. Excellent.
iTunes.
Yes, always love these. The review is from Dismas Santos. And Dismas says, if you are a music student or just interested in sharpening your overall musicianship, subscribe to this podcast now. Oh, thank you. Plus, Matt and Jeremy are some pretty entertaining guys. Well, thank you so much. I never thought we were that entertaining. Apparently. But there you go.
Hey, here's the thing, man. It's like, you know when you're driving to work and you got the radio, those wacky, annoying radio people?
Yeah.
I never wanted to be that guy.
Me either.
Never wanted to be that.
Well, I was never capable. I'm pretty introverted and...
Yeah.
You're just never capable of being one of those guys.
But apparently we get into what we're talking about, and I guess that makes it somehow entertaining. It would be pretty boring if we were just like monotone kind of NPR voices or whatever. Yeah. I couldn't sit through that.
Like in episode 1?
Like in episode 1. Welcome to Music Student 101.
Today, we discuss modal mixture.
But yeah, man, I appreciate Dismas for calling that out.
Yeah, and thank you so much for the review. We always love to hear that we're doing a good job.
Yeah. And another fine listener we have is a new Patreon patron.
Yay!
Yeah, man, we have Tyler DeGuire. Now, Tyler is from Gresham, Oregon, which is
nice.
Just east of Portland.
Okay.
I spent some time in Portland, and it was a beautiful city.
I've heard people call Birmingham the Portland of Alabama.
Oh, yeah. But there was like some kind of caveat. It's like the Portland of Alabama with such and such.
But that was not quite that cool, but...
Exactly. But at least we're working on it.
We're getting there. We got the rainbow lights and stuff,
Well,
big attraction, by the way. If you're not from Birmingham, you got to go through the tunnel with the rainbow lights.
It is pretty darn cool.
It's like a thing, yeah.
Little surreal kind of moment in Birmingham.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've also been to Eugene. I mean, pretty much anywhere in Oregon I've always dug. It's just beautiful and cool people.
Yeah.
Now, Tyler plays mainly guitar, but also plays a little bass, piano, and saxophone.
Have we mentioned that we play bass?
I don't think we have.
At all? Okay.
I don't think we have.
Yeah, Jeremy and I both play bass.
Yes. Bass players with an ear for theory.
Yeah.
It's also kind of cool, for someone to play bass, guitar, and then piano, and then saxophone.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yes.
And I shamefully admit that just an episode ago, I learned that saxophones are not brass; they are woodwinds.
They are woodwinds. They are played with a reed.
But it's kind of cool to know that someone has been able to make the crossover from a stringed instrument to that kind of instrument.
Yeah. Props to you, Tyler. I have never really made that crossover into winds. Mm-mm. I know what I need to know to write for them when it comes up, but.
Even still, you might need to consult a fellow winds player.
It could totally happen. Yeah.
Ask about their registers or their possibilities.
Yeah.
Or their
in terms of actually playing one, you don't want me to attempt that. So, props. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Tyler says I played in bands, but I have not really been active in the community. I've been in this space where I haven't had the social outlet of music, so I decided to deepen my knowledge of music. Good opportunity to do so, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The main thing is that you keep the wheels turning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He says, I've had some teaching in high school on basic music theory, so I wasn't starting from scratch per se by listening to the pod. But in many ways, that basic knowledge just made my mind itch for more.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Finally, some of the little nuances that had just kind of become routine had more meaning, and some of the glass walls I have encountered have broken.
Very nice.
Glass walls, breaking them. For some people, these are like Kevlar walls. These are iron walls,
Yeah. Which just means you have to chip at them for a little longer.
A little harder.
And a little harder. They will still come down.
They will. And finally, Tyler says, P.S. I think it's important for artists to receive constructive criticism. However, I've listened to your pod, and I'm just grateful for the knowledge that you are willing to impart. Kind of hard to be critical in those moments. And the digressions are helpful. Keeps you guys human.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Tyler. That's always wonderful to hear.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
We can be a little self-critical, I think.
Maybe so.
In the construction of this podcast. You guys don't hear all of the stuff that Jeremy edits out, where I play the wrong chord and play the wrong chord like 6 times and curse a little and,
No, but I might leave a couple of those in there just because it's fun.
Just because it's fun, yeah. It is fun.
But maybe we take care of our own critique enough to where no one feels the need to burn us that bad.
Well, we're always open to criticism. I agree with Tyler. It is important to receive constructive criticism. Mm-hmm. Constructive criticism. It is important to offer constructive criticism.
All right.
If you're criticizing really just in life, but especially someone's musical performance or what have you, I always try to be as constructive as possible. Mm-hmm. I'm always trying to say, how can I criticize this in a constructive way?
Because otherwise you're just kind of being mean, aren't you?
Because otherwise you're just being someone who's being critical, and those people tend to get ignored, right? You're not really influencing someone when you're acting that way. So
no. There's no substance,
right,
to your criticism.
Be more, yeah. So, but thank you so much, Tyler. Thank you for your patronage. We really, really appreciate it.
And speaking of patronage, we finally have somewhat of a tier system in place here. Okay.
Okay.
That's part of the tier. That's part of the Patreon thing. You got to kind of set up a tier system where $1 people get this, $5 people get that, such and such. Mm-hmm. Here's what we got so far. Okay, Matt.
Okay, lay it on me.
Tier 1, we call these people Unison.
I love it.
Yeah, and these people can get onto our Patreon site and see cool videos that we put up. Pretty soon, I'm going to release your string quartet on that, the live performance of it.
Nice.
We got. Just cool little extra episodes that we have, little nuggets for you guys, a little bit of extra information. That's tier 1, the Unison group. Mm-hmm. So the Unison people give $1 or more, basically. Mm. Tier 2 is going to be the major thirds.
Aha!
Now these people who put in $3 or more will get our Fine Music Student 101 coffee mug.
Yay! Fine Music Student 101 coffee mug.
18 ounces. It'll get you through any episode. And
It's gotten us through a couple.
I talked about these last episode, and I misspoke a little bit. Actually, you might not. It says hand washing is preferable.
Okay. Okay.
So it might be that I shouldn't have put mine in the dishwasher so many times. But then other people have told me that they've been putting theirs in the dishwasher, and it's just fine. So.
Yeah, ours has been just fine. So.
Okay. Well, do with that what you will. But that is tier 2, which is our major thirds.
Okay. Awesome.
$3 and up. Okay. Now, and Matt, if you like this, we're going to resume. But if you don't, I'm going to edit it out, and we'll figure out something else.
Okay.
Tier 3 will be our perfect fifths.
Oh, how nice.
These are people who give $5 or more.
Yeah, because you are fundamental to our podcast. Yeah, you are the fundamental crux of our podcast, like the perfect fifth is the fundamental crux of tonal harmony.
Exactly. Now, these people, I haven't really come up with anything yet, but here's an idea I have.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we will have them ask us any question, and we can do like a 15-minute episode.
15-minute episode on any question you might have. I like that idea.
And we'll post it on the Patreon page for you and our Patreon people alone.
Yes, nice.
Maybe one day down the road we can release it to our general population listeners, our Gen Pops.
Yeah, so being a Patreon gets you cool stuff.
Cool stuff. So check us out, patreon.com/musicstudent101.
Very nice. Very nice.
Shall we continue?
Yes. So we have some listener mail.
All right.
This is from Devin Franklin in Crawford, New York.
Hey, Devin.
Devin says, or rather, Devin heard about us by doing a search on Spotify. Mm-hmm. Good.
Hearing that
so
more and more.
Spotify works. That's always good.
Finally.
He finds it comprehensive and understandable and says, I skimmed through the lessons and you had exactly what I wanted. In middle school, I played alto sax, trumpet, and drums. Basically, wherever there was a need, I filled it. Isn't that just the life of a musician?
Isn't that great?
That is a good skill / mentality to have. Find a need and plug yourself in it.
Especially in the smaller markets. Even in bigger markets, I would say versatility is key.
Versatility is always key.
You can sing, you can bust out some background harmonies.
Yep. You know, if you can get behind a drum kit a time or two, that's a skill that might be worth something.
Versatility will get you far.
Yeah, right. But anyway, he says, but circumstantially, I couldn't continue with music. I had a keyboard at home and dabbled a lot. In fact, I would take sheet music of songs that I liked, look at the chords, and play the rest of the song by ear. Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Not the best, but I've developed a pretty good ear for melodies and harmonies.
That's a pretty darn good way to do it, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the way to do it right there. I don't believe that I have a favorite genre of music to play, but my favorite song to play is Celine Dion's A New Day Has Come.
A New Day Has Come.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one. I don't listen to a whole lot of Celine Dion. So.
Hey, do you want to give it a listen and then come back? Real quick?
Good plan. Let's listen.
Hold that thought, guys. Okay, we're back.
We listened to it.
We gave it a listen. That was actually very pretty.
The magic of editing.
The magic of editing. Yes, the melodies. It raises and then kind of falls and kind of descends and.
Yeah, kind of descends. Kind of a do re mi re do la so kind of.
Yeah. Very pretty. Well done. Good job, Celine.
Yeah. And so Devin continues. For the past decade, I haven't progressed much in my knowledge of how music works. To be honest, I began songwriting when Prince died. When he died, and you're right. When he died and all of his work flooded YouTube, I was so impressed that he wrote, composed, and played all of his own music. Ideas started popping into my head. I would compose it on the piano and then put it into GarageBand, but with limited knowledge, it's still a challenge. So that's why I've endeavored to learn this, and that's why I appreciate your podcast so much.
Devin, you have no idea how much that same thing inspired me. When I found out about Prince's death, and then a week or so later on, the vault was opened.
Yeah.
And all of these, and God, hundreds, was it hundreds? Just something ridiculous.
Hundreds and hundreds, yeah.
And that Prince was just such an amazing musician.
He was a real genius.
He really was.
Yeah.
Man, did you see him? There's this YouTube video about him playing with George Harrison's son and I think Tom Petty, a lot of the great ones doing While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Yeah, I did see that, actually.
Prince busts out this solo and just goes insane with it, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was, when I heard about that, I was like, yes, I need to, that's inspiring. That's like, Not if he can do it, I can do it, obviously. But
if he can do half of that.
I should try at least.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I got this little playlist on my phone, my top 200 songs of all time. And of course, Purple Rain is on that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
When Doves Cry.
That's a good one, yeah.
So there's something to that. Look to Prince, y'all.
Definitely look to Prince. He's been inspiring musicians for decades now.
And thank you, Devin Franklin. I know it's been a while since you wrote, but again, we got a flag system. I got a flag system, so I'm trying to cover everybody. If you haven't heard from me in 3 or 4 months, yes, try again. But trust I will try and hunt you down. And,
we got it. We've got a system here.
And the system is not gold, but it is a system.
Yeah. Not a flawless system, but a system.
It is silver, tarnished a bit, but silver no less.
Well, all right. Well, thanks everybody for writing in. This was really, it continues to inspire us to keep doing this. It really does.
Dare I say this is our favorite part of the podcast?
It kind of is. Well, for one thing, I don't have to play while we're doing the listener mail, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, crack those knuckles, man, because we're about to get into it.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. Now, today, we're going to talk about something kind of cool, huh?
Yes, we are. Today, we're going to talk about mode mixture. And so what is mode mixture? Well, this is the use of tones from a different mode than the one that we are currently in, or that the song is generally considered to be in. And the traditional interpretation of the phrase modal mixture has to do with taking the qualities of chords from a major key. So, for example, the 4 chord in a major key is a major chord, right, diatonically. And just borrowing the quality of that chord from that key's minor counterpart.
Okay.
So, if I'm in G major, my 4 chords has a root of C, and it is a C major chord. We will play a C minor chord, which is borrowed from G minor. Right. So it's a way of it's kind of a roundabout way of saying, just play a minor 4 chord instead of a major 4 chord and see what that's like.
Yeah.
So that's the basic idea.
We had a listener and another Patreon patron, James Church, actually. And he asked us a question about soloing, using, for example, in the key of G major, use D major scale to solo over the A major chord.
I remember this.
Right? Well, A major is not diatonic. The A major chord is not diatonic to the key of G major. Normally that would be an A minor chord. So the A major is a secondary dominant. And this is talking about using secondary dominants and parts. So this is kind of tying into what we're talking about today a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we're borrowing from different modes to make this kind of thing happen.
Right, yeah. So the thing we're talking about today, which is the traditional Western tonal harmony version, is the much simplified version of what James is sort of talking about. And the version that is concerned mainly on the level of key rather than on the level of individual chords.
Yes.
And I know that, that can, statements like that always lead to such deep philosophical questions, right? Well, how do you know what is a key, really? Why are you playing in a particular key? Our not to get too philosophical, but our old, back in the episodes 1 through 10 definition of a key, a key is taking these 7 notes and playing them. That definition isn't working anymore, you see, right? Because with all this chromaticism and borrowing from other things, now we have notes outside of those keys that we can bring in. So our definition of what a key is changing and continues to change. But yeah, to circle back around, our traditional Western tonal harmony version is sort of the simplified idea of what James was talking about, and sort of the key version rather than the chord change version of what James is talking about. If that makes any sense at all.
Well, I think James was more talking about notes, where we're kind of talking about chords a little bit here.
Yeah,
we're talking about borrowed notes, but they result in borrowed chords.
Right. Yeah, James is talking more about notes and chords,
melodies.
Yeah, right. And we're talking more about chords and keys. So that's what's going on with that. So this can happen during a passage of music, or for only an instance. A common way to do this is to be in a major key and use notes from that key's parallel minor. So what is the parallel minor, Jeremy?
Well, if we're in the key of C major, the parallel minor would be C minor.
Would be C minor.
Same root note.
Same tonic note.
Same tonic, my bad. Same tonic. But it's not using all the same notes, right?
Right.
Where if it was the relative minor, it would have been A minor.
Yeah.
Of C major.
Same notes, different tonic.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, roundabout way of saying C major, C minor are parallels. D major, D minor. F sharp major, F sharp minor. You know, this is the parallel relationship, right? So, like for example, so I can be in C major, and nice, and I can play just the world's simplest. Well, I kind of already did. I can play just the world's simplest C major progression. I can go from 1. And I can go from there to 4. And I can go from 4 to 5. And from 5 to 1.
That felt very diatonic.
It's very diatonic. This is simple stuff, right? Using borrowed chords, I can borrow notes from the parallel minor. C minor. So the differences in C from C major to C minor? E to E flat is going to be different, right? A to A flat is going to be different.
Yep.
And B to B flat is going to be different.
So 3 new accidentals.
Yeah. So instead of playing this A natural in my 4 chord, I'm going to instead play an A flat, and then this chord progression becomes 1. Borrowed 4.
Wow.
2, 5. And then back to 1.
The minute you hit that F chord, that F minor, I felt like I was in a minor key.
Yeah.
Wasn't that funny?
Yeah, well, you hit the one chromatic note in what was otherwise a completely diatonic progression.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
But yeah, because this A flat, it's going to want to pull down to that G, right? I can try it again and put it in the soprano, and and like all chromaticism, it gives it that extra sort of level of emotionality, right? You know, it gives it that sort of extra sense of drama, you know, that you don't get kind of playing bland old diatonic chords all the time.
Right. So the example you just played was an example of being in a major key and borrowing a chord from its from its parallel minor.
From its parallel minor, yes. Okay,
so it's more common, obviously, it seems, to borrow chords from the minor mode
and put them into the major mode.
So let's maybe begin our discussion covering some of those examples.
Yeah.
Shall we?
And we'll get into why that's a little more common as we move on. But yeah, so by merely taking that lowered 6, so if I'm in C major, let's be in C major, and this is my scale degree 6, by simply borrowing scale degree flat 6 from the minor mode, A flat, right, so we have...
Yeah. Hey, can you play a C major scale with just that flat 6 instead of a regular 6? Nice. That turned it into a half major, half harmonic minor kind of thing.
Yeah, it kind of made like a weird kind of mode or something out of it, didn't it?
Did we call that the mullet mode? Party in the front, business in the back? Oh no, that's the opposite. That's more of a swoop.
It almost would actually be an 8-note scale because, you know, you don't really sacrifice A natural, right? I mean, it's still there and it's still something you can use. You just could have added to it, so you could almost sort of, you know.
That's getting a little bluesy.
Yeah, kind of. Ooh,
chromatic.
Yeah, that's interesting. It is getting kind of bluesy. That interests me.
At some point, we're gonna have to talk about the blues.
At some point, we are going to talk, and we will.
Yes, we will.
And we totally will. But yeah, so just from that 5/6, we have
flat 6.
Right, just by borrowing that flat 6 from the minor mode, we have 4 totally new qualities of chord. Right, so we still have the old sort of diatonic qualities that we can still use. Right, so major 1, minor 2, minor 3, major 4, major 5, minor 6, diminished 7.
Yes.
Yeah. But now we also have...
Those are the diatonic major chords.
Right. Yeah, those are just the diatonic qualities of the chords. We also have new qualities. So, for example, a 2 chord... So, yeah, and then, yeah, by this is a regular diatonic minor 2 chord.
Yeah.
By using this A flat, we can have a 2 diminished chord. So, yeah, they can go to 5, and then back to 1.
Ooh,
that was neat, right?
That was very neat. Hey, can you try and do like a 1 and then the 7 thing you just did, the 2 diminished 7?
And
then a 4 and then a 5?
Let's see.
I kind of hear how that's...
Kind of want to see.
If it sounds like I think it's going to sound cool.
Yeah, so let's see if I can pull that off. And then diatonic 4.
Interesting. Not what I thought it was going to sound like, but still cool.
It was kind of cool because you created that chromatic motion upward in that alto voice.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can do that again. And then maybe if I did... something like that.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah. So what I played initially was just a 2 diminished triad. But of course, this also means you have a 2 half diminished 7, right? Just make a 7 chord out of that 2. There's our 7, right? And then... Yep. Pretty cool, huh? You could even do...
2.
And then maybe like some cadential motion.
1, 5, 1.
Yeah. So you have 2, 7. We already talked about how this creates the possibility for a minor 4 chord, right?
Yeah.
And it has a little bit of extra drama. And also a 7 fully diminished 7 chord. So, whereas before, our 7/7 chord would have been a half diminished 7, right? Yeah.
In a major.
Yeah, in diatonically major. Yeah. Now we have the possibility of a fully diminished. And that fully diminished, that A flat, in all of these, that A flat contrapuntally kind of is wanting to pull down to G.
Yes.
Right? So you can hear that in that fully diminished 7 chord. Right, yeah. So that chromaticism is what's giving you that extra sense of drama there.
Now, because this 7 chord is still the leading tone, whether you're in major or minor, this is still the leading tone 7 to that 1.
Yes.
So that's why I think it makes a pretty good modulation tool.
Yeah.
Because you don't need any explanation. You don't need anything ramping up to it or anything leading to it. You could just, bam, put a 7 diminished chord there. And if you're a major, resolve to a minor 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll actually talk about minor 1s in a minute.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, but, and then you could just use this to create, just minor 1.
Boom.
I kind of like to hear a perfect fifth in there somewhere, but
Yeah,
but I guess that's just me. I don't know.
No, you're probably not alone.
But yeah, and have we talked about fully diminished 7 chords and how you can resolve a half step up from any one of those notes yet?
We have talked about that, but it couldn't hurt to go ahead and hit that one more time.
Yeah. And also, because this is a fully diminished 7 chord, you may remember we discussed in previous episodes how you can actually call that a 7, fully diminished 7 of any chord whose root is a half step above any one of those 4 notes.
Mm-hmm.
So you could call this 7 fully diminished 7 and resolve back to C major, or you could call this 7 fully diminished 7 and resolve up to A major or minor, or up to F sharp major or minor, or up to E flat major or minor.
We don't have to do all 4, but can we hear some examples of how that same chord, that very same chord, can go so many different ways?
It's a little off subject, but yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
So when we have our fully diminished 7 chord, moving up to F sharp. Yeah. And then find that chord again. Yeah. Moving to E flat.
Okay, let me back up a little bit, and then we'll be done with this because we don't.
Okay, yeah.
But hey, this is kind of cool because what you just did, you start off in the key of C.
Yeah.
When you hit that fully diminished chord, you made that as the 7 of F sharp.
Yeah.
So now, within 3 chords, we have gone from C major, 0 sharps or flats, to F sharp major.
Yeah.
What, 5 sharp? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot of sharps and
Yeah,
flats.
Jeremy's itching to talk about modulations to distantly related keys.
I'm itching.
He
My
can't
finger
wait.
is quivering over the red button.
His brain is itching, just like Tyler's brain is itching. Jeremy's brain is itching too, and he wants to talk about moving really, really far away from the key you're in. Using, but yeah. So
The theory brain's a burning.
yes, it is. So very, very useful, right? And even without the sense of modulation, adds a certain amount of drama. And all of these new options were created merely by borrowing A flat from C minor. Right?
Just that
We've only
one note.
borrowed one note.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
So when we start to borrow other notes, the possibilities, I imagine, open up even further.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so this 7th chord, the type of, I guess, technique we're using has been referred to as secondary mode mixture.
Yeah. So this way of using mode mixture to create 7 ofs, is referred to by some people as secondary mode mixture, because you're sort of having a secondary 7th chord, like you would a secondary dominant chord, and tonicizing other things.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about this borrowed minor 4 chord in the major key.
The borrowed minor 4.
Because it seems to be a little more common, not as common as those 7 chords, right?
Yeah, well, it almost depends on what era you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's common enough. It's common enough. You need to know what it is.
Let's find out what it is.
All right.
Let's hear what it sounds like.
So 4 chord used often in things like a plagal cadence, right? So you'll be and then you're doing your normal little progression, and then you do your plagal cadence. So that was a borrowed 4 chord.
Ooh, okay.
Wasn't that nice?
That's just beautiful.
Isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's just great. Yeah, you'll never use a diatonic plagal cadence ever again.
I don't think I'm going to write this down. Because I guess we don't really need to show them the regular plagal cadence, do we?
We can show
Should
them
we
the
do them back and
plagal
forth?
cadence. Yeah, just for comparison. So, I'm going to play a nice little unassuming diatonic sort of. All right. So I'm in my little chord progression, right?
2, 5, 1.
And then a regular plagal cadence.
The amen cadence.
The amen cadence, yeah. And if I was in a better inversion here.
Much fuller.
Versus our mode mixed plagal cadence.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Just like all chromaticism, it gives it that extra flavor, right? That extra sort of emotional tint to it.
Little drama.
Little drama, yeah. Little drama. Good stuff. And of course, it's also perfectly acceptable to use a borrowed 4 chord as a predominant chord. These chords will still more or less conform to their original function. Mm-hmm. So a 4 chord is a predominant chord, meaning it leads to the dominant.
That's good news.
Yeah, less to learn, right?
Uh-huh.
So, and then 1, borrowed 4 to 5/7.
Mm-hmm.
Uses a predominant chord.
Crazy question. Does anyone like to go from 1 to minor 4 to major 4, then to 5?
Yes, that's a thing. It creates a little chromatic motion. So
Because it's still performing the same function, minor 4, major 4.
Right,
It
yeah.
can do
So
that. Pretty cool, yeah.
little chromatic passing tone there.
Just a little more time to spend on that scenic route to where you to the tonic, right?
Yeah.
Cool,
Nice
cool.
stuff.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to say about the minor 4 chord?
Well, the first inversion 4 chord can aid in descending bass lines in a major key. So what you do, and I may have to try this a couple of times.
Uh-huh.
But 5. Yeah, so you can go 1 to 5/4/2, for example, right? 5/7 chord in third inversion. Yeah.
Listen to the bass line.
Yeah. To 4/6. This is a diatonic 4/6, not borrowed. 4/6, right? And then borrowed 4/6. And then 5. Yeah.
Oh, I got to hear that again.
Yeah, let's try that again.
Let's hear that bass line, that bass note.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
One.
tonic, right?
Yeah.
To 5/7 in third inversion, so B.
7.
To 4/6, so we just moved that B down to A.
6.
And now we're going to bring in our borrowed A flat.
Flat 6.
And then we're on 5.
5.
And then 1.
1. Very cool bass line.
Yeah, I did a little bit parallel octaves in there. Sorry for that, but, you know.
Hey, if you guys want to write a critique about Matt's parallel octaves, go right ahead. We're waiting.
We'll send you a free coffee mug if you point out. No, don't. We'll run out of coffee mugs.
Yeah, right. That's all you got to do.
That's not a thing. but you get the idea. So, you know, really effective. We've said before that one of the main reasons for inversion is to write cool bass lines, right?
Seems like it.
And that's perfectly a very good example. So this is inversions plus a little chromaticism via modal mixture to write a good bass line.
Got it. Okay, so let's move on, shall we? The 2 chord, huh?
Yeah, another very common borrowed chord is the borrowed 2 half diminished 7 chord. So we know that in the major mode, I'm just going to play a little, and this is in major, C major. And we know that the 2 chord in major is a minor chord, right? So. We can use that A flat again, just borrowing that one note again, and make a 2 half diminished chord. So, something like that. Although that's just the 2 diminished triad. More commonly is actually the 2 half diminished 7. I'll be in a different inversion here. See if this helps any.
Okay. 1,
2 half diminished 7. Right. And this is more common because it has that additional tendency to move. So as A flat is moving down to G, this C is moving down to B to create a 5, right? And
so we have 2 tendency tones moving downward.
yeah, but they're major thirds apart, so that's okay.
Okay.
Parallel thirds are all day with parallel thirds, no problem.
Nice. Just stay away from those parallel fifths and parallel octaves.
Exactly.
Mainly.
Exactly. Yeah. So so yeah, in most cases, like we've been saying, this flat 6 is going to want to move down to scale degree 5. Yeah.
As we just learned, right?
As we just learned, yeah, it's that's its primary tendency. As we have also learned, it is often approached by a natural 6 or natural 5, such as in our descending bass line, right? Or such as in, as the chord progression you suggested recently, where, we have this A natural, and then moving A flat. There we go. That easy.
Very nice.
Right. Yeah. So, because a lot of the fun in chromaticism is creating these chromatic lines, right? And a lot of composers really get into writing sophisticatedly contrapuntal lines where chromaticism would happen in very important places in the music.
Okay. Well, so far we've learned that with just this one alteration, this flat 6, borrowing it from the minor key to the major key, we've learned that we have 4 new chord possibilities.
Yeah.
That being the 2 diminished, right?
The 2 diminished, the 2 half diminished 7, very, very common. The minor 4, very, very common. And then the 7 fully diminished 7.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, it seems we can do more.
We can create a chord whose root is just that flat 6.
Okay.
So a borrowed flat 6 chord. And for my money, this is the one that really, really gets done a lot. And this is the one, other than the minor 4 chord, this is the one that's really, really useful.
Now, remember when we said if you're borrowing a chord from another parallel key, it'll typically hold the same function as it did in the original key.
Typically.
Now, what's going on here? Is that happening also?
It will. It will perform a similar predominant function as its diatonic counterpart. So we are going to create the chord of A flat major in the key of C minor. Now, you'll notice right away that in this one we have borrowed not only the A flat from C minor, we've also borrowed the E flat from C minor.
Okay, so
and created an A flat major chord. So
yeah,
in the key of C major.
Oh wow, that's kind of lifting.
Yeah. So diatonically deceptive cadence. So 1, 2, 5, and then a diatonic deceptive cadence.
Okay.
Kind of we remember this, right?
We love
kind of have
that.
that lyrical sort of using the borrowed flat 6 chord. 1, 2, 5. Borrowed deceptive cadence.
Wow.
Yeah, big difference, right?
Very big.
Yeah.
Still deceptive.
Still deceptive, but it's got a sort of
I feel like I landed in a different key. Like I did.
yeah. You kind of did a little bit, but and then so and then we would probably have to continue on or go back to continue back on to staying C major. You'd have to go back to 2, and then or something, borrow 2. At this point you really are feeling like you're going to be in a different key, A flat to D flat, or A flat to D or something. Yeah.
So that's one way this chord can be used. Now, another way I understand is, because if it holds true with what we said about the diatonic function of the sixth chord, then this borrowed flat sixth chord can also prolong the tonic.
Sure.
Right?
Just like the regular sixth chord can prolong the tonic. Absolutely. Yeah. So just like it's kind of a tonic prolongation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just something very rising about that. Kind
Yeah.
of almost dreamy.
It's kind of Tchaikovsky-esque to me
Oh,
somehow.
okay.
I wonder if he used them a lot or something. I don't know.
Possibly.
That may just be me. So.
These other chords we're going to talk about here are also by using a few extra altered notes other than that one flat six, right?
Right, yeah, and the flat six chord, the major flat six chord has already done that. We've borrowed A flat and E flat, from the minor mode.
Very cool.
We can also, if we want to also borrow that B flat, we can create a flat three chord. So I don't even know how to get to this in a chord progression, but I go borrowed four, and then or something like that. It's a little rare. Obviously, it's a little awkward to get around to, but it is there, and it is a possibility.
There is a Pink Floyd song.
Trust Pink Floyd.
Most of my references are usually Pink Floyd and Beatles. Because at one point, like I said, when I lived with my band Tonal Vision, we had a piano in the house, and we were all taking our piano lessons. And we had a big fat Beatles book and a big fat Pink Floyd book. And we must have gone through every song in that book over and over. So when I think about, that song did have that example. But in this case, it's Pink Floyd. And we got this song called Fearless. And it's got that whole... just kind of up the G major scale. It does that a few times, and then it finally goes. So you got a G, one, four, flat three.
Yeah.
So it's something kind of bluesy that's happening in there.
Yeah.
You might hear like a blues piece or a blues number that starts off kind of like just a major chord.
Yeah.
It's kind of prolonging
Yeah.
an otherwise G major chord.
Yeah.
So sometimes they'll also just do a... It's still in G major, but you're flattening that three, which I always thought was pretty interesting.
Fascinating stuff, huh?
That's one cool way I've seen it used.
Yeah. It has a very distinctive sound when it's used, and when it's used in that, and when it's used in other places too. So it can be kind of rare, but really good when you do get it.
Yeah.
And of course, we can also have a flat major seven. So if I'm in C major, I can have a borrowed flat seven, a B flat chord, because I borrowed the B flat from the minor, right?
Yeah.
And that's got a real Mixolydian feel to it, right?
I have a couple of examples actually that use that.
Oh, awesome! Let's have that. Yeah. This is a big thing in rock and roll. This flat seven is a big thing in rock and roll. So there's a lot of examples of.
All right, so one example I learned a while ago in my jam band was a Grateful Dead song called Franklin's Tower.
Right.
And you might have heard it. You might recognize this progression. It's kind of like. It's when they're going. Roll away.
Yep. Use of a flat seven.
So in this case, what's happening is you got a 1,
Yep.
flat 7, 4.
Yeah.
Now, another example of this is, and these both do the same thing. We've all heard Hey Jude. Play along with me, Matt. It's a D, C, G, and back to D, okay? Key of D. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Got the 1, 1, flat 7, 4. Back to D, back to 1. Yeah.
Nice. That flat 7/4 is a big thing, isn't it?
Now, in both examples I played, Hey Jude and Franklin's Tower, this flat 7 is kind of acting as a go-between between 1 and 4.
Yeah.
But okay, so what I said, I'm gonna make something up here. Okay, you ready?
Okay, yeah.
See what you think about this.
Okay.
We have ourselves a secondary 4. A 4 of.
A 4 of.
Is that just crazy?
Yes, but I like it. But I like it.
I'm getting experimental here, but it is interesting because it acts like so you got a D, you got a C. You can almost hear plagal cadence.
Yeah. Well, I think 1-4-7. 1-7-4. You're kind of just retrograding backwards around the circle of fifths, right? 7 to 4 to 1.
Interesting.
And so that flat 7 performing that same function as a normal 7 would, right? So flat 7 to 4 to 1. So you're kind of just, your chord progression is sort of backtracking around, going counterclockwise around the circle of fifths. Yeah. So it's probably what makes it such a great chord progression.
Yeah, okay. A little retro trip around the circle of fifths.
Yeah. Never forget your circle of fifths, people. It is the most valuable thing you can learn, almost.
Now, as long as I'm making up stuff.
As long as you're making up stuff.
Can I call this, now let's just say we're in D major.
Okay.
We got this C major.
Yep.
Now that could be the flat 7 of D major.
Yes.
Borrowed chord from D minor.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
However, in D mixolydian, this note would also occur.
Yeah.
So am I not also, is there a chance that there's a parallel relationship? Can we call these two, D major and D mixolydian, parallel to each other? Because they had the same root, but they had different chords. They had one different
Fundamentally, that is a parallel relationship.
Okay.
Between D major and D mixolydian.
Okay.
They are parallel modes because they share a quote-unquote tonic. Some theorists don't like for you to call the notes of other modes tonics because they say, well, the leading tones and stuff are all mixed up and they're not leading to them in the right way, so they're called finals instead of tonics. I personally don't get too fired up about that. But that's just me. Other theorists get kind of fired up about that. But if you're like me and you don't get especially fired up about that, then yeah, you can say D major and D mixolydian have different notes but share a tonic and ergo have a parallel relationship.
Okay.
And even if you do get fired up about that, you have to admit the relationship between the final and the tonic of these two modes.
You cannot deny that.
Yeah, I mean, D major is just an Ionian mode, right?
Yes.
So the question is, if you played in D major and went to C major in a song, the question would be, are you just in D mixolydian, right? Would it be easier to say that than to try to justify using modal mixture, going to a C chord? Or would it be easier to just say, hey man, I'm in D mixolydian and that's what I'm playing in? Because the major 7 is diatonic to D mixolydian.
Exactly.
And that's a question of nomenclature, and a lot of what theorists do is sit around trying to... Sit around, that was sort of semi-pejorative. A lot of what theorists do is try to come up with the simplest and most useful explanations of what's going on in music, right? So depending on context, the simplest and most useful explanation might be, I'm just in the mode of D mixolydian. Unless at some point there was a C sharp diminished chord in there, and then you have to sort of think about, and then the simplest explanation might be, well, the C natural was a borrowed chord. So it's just it's all about context.
We're learning all these great workarounds.
Yeah, we're getting deep
approaches.
we're getting deep enough into theory now a little bit that we're starting to get into things that people can argue about. There's more than one explanation of something. We've kind of left Kansas a little, so yeah.
Now, before we get into borrowing chords in minor from the major key, we have one more thing to talk about that I think is very cool.
Okay.
Now, sometimes in the minor 1 can occur in a longer passage within a major key,
Sure.
right? So how might that sound? How might that go?
Let's see. So I'm in a major key.
Sounds major? Check.
I'm going to go, let's see. I don't know if I'm going to do what you're thinking, but what if I went 1, passing 5, 6, 4 to borrowed 1, 6.
Oh, dude.
To let's keep it going. Borrowed 4
Yeah. Whoa.
to 5. We kind of just fell into the minor key there is what happened.
But no,
Sorry,
nope. Now we're major.
Yeah, we ended on major. Sounded more like a minor with a pickety third, right? But
Oh, we'll talk about that in just a second.
But let's be a little more conservative and do the same thing. So 1, passing 5, 6, 4, borrowed minor 1, 6.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just go normal old 4. And to 5.
Dude, yeah. I really like that.
It's kind of cool, isn't it? Yeah. It's very Beethovenish. Beethoven would do this kind of thing a lot, where he would, and then would just go. Yeah, he would do that kind of thing all the time.
Kind of just takes a sunny day and brings a cloud over it.
Yeah.
But I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Awesome.
I'm not a morose kind of guy. But for
Yeah.
some reason, that just does something for me. I don't know.
It does something for all of us. It gives that sense of, it gives that extra drama, that extra dissonance. All writing music in this way, where we use chords and melodies and things like this. It's all about. It's all about mixing the very, very predictable with just enough unpredictability to pique interest. And to create. Some people think they can write a super sad song by just being all in minor keys all minor chords all the time. So,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sad. And that's true. That sounds sad. But when you do little things like that, where you and have maybe a borrowed chord, but then it gives it a different type of sadness, right?
Yeah.
And you can take really, really happy things, and sprinkle in things, right? And get layers, and you look at like artists like Ben Folds 5 or somebody, they get really good at adding these layers and getting different types of emotion, and landing in different places along the happy or sad spectrum. Happy and sad are easy. It's all that middle stuff where you have to really think.
And it's also kind of relative, because if I have a song that is in nothing but minor chords, you don't really get to appreciate the minor until you've had a major. Like, hey, if I had every day of my life was just golden and charmed, and I never had a bad day, I never stubbed my toe, I never did anything, I wouldn't know what a bad day was like.
Right.
But if I'm having mixed days, good and bad, then I kind of get a better idea of what each is like, and then maybe a greater appreciation when I encounter one or the other.
Yeah, and then you start to get music that is telling a story.
Yes.
Telling a story about a day that went bad, where where the clouds came along and started to rain or something.
Yes.
And then you start getting this narrative of music where you can really express things, and express very sophisticated things. That's why it's the great art that it is.
Exactly. And before we move on again to the borrowed chords in major, I will say, or from major to minor. I will say that, and I think I know the answer to this question, but just for our music students here, one more time.
Okay.
This, what we just talked about, using a minor 1 or in a key, in a major key.
Yeah.
Where do we say this is mode mixture versus modulation?
Modulation is all about changing key. So we will call it a modulation when we started in C major and ended up in G major, or started in C major and ended up in F sharp minor, or something like that. A borrowed chord is just a brief, we're just borrowing these notes to give a particular chord, which is going to have its same function as it would otherwise, a new chromatic flavor. And give the contrapuntal lines that make up that chord a new level of chromaticism to make them more interesting.
Very good. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, good.
Now, a very short topic because there's not a whole lot to it.
Uh-huh.
But there's a couple of little examples here
Okay.
where we actually borrow chords when we're in a minor key that we borrow chords from a major key.
Right. So this is not as common. And the reason this is not as common is not because it's more difficult or anything. It's just, it kind of harkens back to that simplest and most useful explanation of something. When we talk about minor keys, you'll remember we have three types, right? We have the natural minor mode key.
Scales or keys?
Scales, keys, modes, whatever.
Okay.
When we talk about minor scales, we have the natural minor, which we borrowed our notes from earlier, right? But then we also have the harmonic minor, where the 7 scale degree 7 is raised. And we have the melodic minor, where both scale degree 6 and scale degree 7 is raised. And because of that, and because we already have these three, and because these three are sort of, in music, they're a little bit interchangeable, right? Real pieces of music kind of move fluidly from one to the other of these. You don't really think of yourself as in the key of C harmonic minor. You're just in C minor, and you're going to use whatever version of C minor is most appropriate, right? Because of this, it's usually not the most simplest and most useful explanation to call it a borrowed chord from major.
Right.
So you don't really get that concept the same way. You're just talking about melodic minor a lot, you know?
Because because the minor scale 1, 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. When we alter the 6 and the 7, scale degree 6 and 7, we're still considering it a minor key.
Just melodic minor or harmonic minor, yeah. So that eliminates 2 of our big options right there.
Yes. That was, I guess, what I was driving at.
Yeah. That eliminates 2 of our big options right there. So a lot of the chords we talked about in borrowing from minor into major, you know, when we talk about borrowing from major into minor, we're just talking about natural versus melodic versus harmonic, where those 2 notes are concerned. Now, that does leave one glaring exception, which is that flat 3.
Okay.
And the most famous example ever of borrowing what would be the raised scale degree 3 from the major mode into the minor would be what is called the Picardy third.
The Picardy third.
Which you can always impress your friends by knowing what this is, right?
What a smart-sounding word.
What a smart-sounding word.
Picardy third.
Picardy third. Star Trek fans love it.
Hey, and I was going to get into this because that's how I remembered. It was like, I was a big fan of The Next Generation.
As were we all.
And most Star Treks, but that was the one that I was watching when I was a kid, you know. Jean-Luc Picard.
That guy, yeah.
My favorite captain. Well, I don't know. Captain Janeway was not without her charm. But either way.
Picard all the way, man.
The Next Generation, the funny thing is, here's my little OCD kind of funny little moment I'm going to share with you guys. The number 47. So my company, Area 47 Music, I was named because my mom was born in 1947. My birthday, January 14th, 1977.
Oh, nice.
Now, like I said, again, this has always been like a little reoccurring number of intrigue in my life. Well, as it turns out, Star Trek Next Generation is riddled with this number. If you go and Google the number 47 in Star Trek Next Generation, anytime they had to come up with a random number, this thing needs to be set to 47 kilohertz, or
wow.
They often use that number.
How did I never notice that?
Not a lot of people did. But it's just one of those cool little things. Go check it out.
And I've seen every episode of TNG multiple times and have just never noticed.
And while you're checking that out, check out my podcast release times. It's often like 7:47, 4:47. If I have a podcast that goes like 80 minutes and 48 seconds. I'll shave off that last little second that has 47 seconds. So,
have you ever written anything in 7/4? So from up.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever written anything that was 4 minutes or 4 minutes and 7 seconds long? I guess that's okay. I've also done that. All right.
So not unlike Jack Nicholson's psychotic character on The Shining, I say to you, go check it out. Find out what a crazy lunatic I really am. Go check it out, y'all.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
But that was our digression for the episode.
That was our digression. So anyway, back to the Picardy Third.
The Picardy Third, Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah, simplest thing in the world. So, and this happened
Patrick
pretty
Stewart,
much...
by the way.
Patrick Stewart, yeah. So this happened all the time in the Baroque era, where you would be in a minor key. So we're in C minor, right? And you have and then, some little progression, whatever. And then, we do something very depressive, like... But then in that last chord would be a major chord.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all sorts of sort of aesthetic, extra musical kind of reasons for doing this about, the minor chord being technically a dissonance and this tradition of not ending on one of those and things. So there is sort of a really antiquated justification for it that didn't stand the test of time. Modern music and even music of the 18th and 19th centuries, landing on minor chords is just fine, no big deal. But there was a period there in which every minor key song had to end by borrowing that Re scale degree third from the major mode and ending on a major version of the tonic chord. And that is the Picardy Third.
Not the Picardy Third chord, but just the Picardy Third movement, the Picardy Third moment.
Yeah, the third.
Or is it called a Picardy
the third
third
refers to the third of the tonic chord, aka the third scale degree, which is the one we've borrowed from major to,
Why Picardy? Is that some...
No clue.
Okay.
Somebody Google that or something and write in and tell me. I have no idea.
Very good. Let us know.
Yeah. See, I don't know everything.
We don't know everything.
Contrary to popular opinion.
We're just trying to stay one lesson ahead of you guys.
Exactly. He's one lesson ahead.
Now, it's my understanding that the Picardy Third was common, like you were saying, in the 1500s, Renaissance period, right?
Yeah, Renaissance through the Baroque.
Because that minor third was considered such a scary, kind of unsettling.
Yeah, and not a good place to end something.
You want to go home with a happy note.
I guess.
Or a blessed note.
Yeah.
Either way. And then this occurred all the way up until the 1750s as well, which it still happens today.
It still happens today, yeah.
But in traditional tonal harmony.
Yeah.
I think it was Beethoven, the Fifth Symphony.
Beethoven's Fifth Symphony is weird. The first movement definitely ends on a C minor chord. Now, the fourth movement, the entire fourth movement is in the key of C major. Mm-hmm. So from the course of the symphony, he has worked from C minor and worked his way into C major. So kind of a really extended version of the Picardy Third.
Again, we're zooming out. We're kind of pinching out.
Yeah. He did that in the Ninth Symphony too, where the symphony is in D minor. The whole Ode to Joy thing is total D major.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that whole thing right there at the end is and on some level you could maybe think of that as a giant Picardy Third.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little bit of expanding the concept of the original idea of the Picardy Third, I think. But hey,
that happens.
All these concepts are related, right?
Yes, they are. It's all relative. Okay.
Unless it's parallel.
Oh, hey, look out. Look out. Theory jokes. We got 'em.
Oh, don't get me started.
You got a good theory joke? What's a good theory joke, Matt?
What do you call two violinists playing the same part?
What?
Parallel minor seconds.
Parallel minor seconds. Nice. Violin players, rate us on that one. Or don't. Now, the only other thing I came across is, so we kind of established that if you're borrowing chords, if you're in a minor key and you're borrowing from a major, the parallel major, the most likely cool opportunity you're going to have to do that is a 1 chord, the minor 1 chord.
Yeah.
Because as we said, the notes of the melodic and harmonic minor scales are also part of the major scale, so you're not really borrowing. Is that right?
It's not like you can't do it. It's just you wouldn't necessarily call it borrowing.
But one other thing I came across with, and I kind of like to hear, is the act of borrowing a major 4 in a minor key.
A major 4 in a minor key.
And what theory have you to offer in that exercise, if any?
That would be melodic minor.
Okay.
In which the 4 chord is diatonically major.
Oh, because the scale degree 6 is the third of the 4 chord.
Absolutely.
And we're raising that up.
Absolutely, yeah. Now you can consider it to be a borrowed chord if you want, and there are definitely theorists who might call that a borrowed chord, especially in certain contexts. You know, where because the melodic minor scale has this ascending quality to it, and if you just picked a scale degree 6 out of the blue and decided it was going to be raised, and you may call that a borrowed 4 chord. But the borrowed 4 chord, the major 4 chord in minor mode does have a melodic minor origin.
I just got to hear how that sounds. Can we hear an example of that? We're in the major key. No, I'm sorry, we're in a minor key.
We're in a minor key.
Nice.
It would sound really good with some suspensions, wouldn't it? So like.
Yeah, suspensions.
Yeah, suspensions are great.
Oh, that's a mighty fine suspension, son. What you?
4/3 is the best suspension.
I concur. And you just kind of reminded me. Speaking of Pink Floyd references, breathe.
Oh, yeah.
1 minor, 4 major.
Yeah.
We got an E minor, key D minor, 4 A major.
Yeah.
Maybe it happens more often than we think.
Yeah, it does. And something like that.
Music.
Yeah. And something like that, the question is, are you not just in E melodic minor?
Well, because we can't be in the key of E melodic minor, but we would just say we're in key of E minor.
We just say we're in the key of E minor.
When I play Breathe, yes, I feel like I'm very much in the key of E minor.
Yeah.
Despite that A.
Yeah, and again, we're getting to things that theorists could potentially argue over. Just going back and forth from E minor to A major like that. It's like, well, are you really doing melodic minor motion? Is it more appropriate to call it a borrowed chord from the major? Yeah.
Good stuff, man.
Good stuff. Fun, right?
Very fun.
This is the easiest level of chromaticism there is.
Yeah. And yet, we're about to blow it up.
Well, we're already starting to blow it up a little bit, right? I mean, a lot of these examples, it's not entirely clear what key we're in all the time, is it?
So you can say our fingers have connected with the button, or we have the keys in the slot, and the other guy has the key in the slot, and we're about to push the button.
I think blowing up may start to be a bad analogy, more like the slow rotting away.
Okay.
Tonality has serious water damage right now.
Corroding it.
Yeah.
Growing some black mold. No, that's bad too. That's a pretty way of saying what we're trying to say. But never mind. Let's get to
the recap before we get any further down this hole.
I know. What are these guys on? Oh no, actually, there is one more thing. Just to recap on modulations using mode mixture. I guess before we get into the recap.
Okay.
Mode mixture is a very common form of modulation.
Yes.
And it can also aid. If you hear this, you might know a modulation is about to happen.
Sure.
When you hear a note or a chord that doesn't, it makes your ears perk up. It sounds alien.
Yeah. in any level of chromaticism, you could really say that about, is it can often herald a modulation, especially when you're talking about real classical forms like a Haydn symphony or something. Increased chromaticism means a modulation is coming.
So if you're looking at the notation and where the first few measures might have been just completely diatonic, all of a sudden you see these accidentals, sharps or flats or whatever popping up, you might say to yourself, okay, maybe this is where something occurred.
Yep.
Now, mode mixture can also aid in modulation to distantly related keys, which we're going to talk about down the road. But let's give a little preview, shall we?
Let's do.
I was actually able to kind of come up with a chord progression that I was pretty proud of. Now, whether I can play it or not, we will see.
We will see.
But here's the idea. We're going to go to what I consider to be a very distantly related key, okay?
Okay.
We're going to be in C major.
Uh-huh.
0 sharps or flats.
All right.
We're going to end in G sharp major.
Let's call it A flat major.
We'll call it A flat major, but if I call it G sharp major,
which doesn't technically exist.
Which is a theoretical thing, but if it did exist, it would have 6 sharps and a double sharp.
Right.
Right? That's a lot of sharps. But even
which is why it doesn't exist, and you just call it A flat.
Well, in order to the path of least resistance, we'll call it A flat.
Okay.
But A flat has 4 flats.
It's still a distant key. Still a pretty far away key.
A distantly related key. So if we got a C here, a C, and just kind of dig how this sounds, and we'll talk about it.
So this is 1, 4, 5, borrowed 1, borrowed 4, which would actually be 6 in A flat, 5, 5, 7, A flat major.
A flat major. Now, did any of that sound weird? It sounded like a pretty,
Sounded pretty smooth. Yeah, something like that.
So, all that to say, you can use these chords to go to just about anywhere you want to go.
Yeah,
at this point.
And we will talk about using chromatic chords like modal mixture and some other things to get into keys really, really far away from the key you started with. Not just going from C and getting to G or going from C and getting to F or something easy like that, but getting really far away from where you started.
Be they real keys or theoretical keys.
Be they real or theoretical.
Because I like to make up some of my own stuff on this podcast. Thank God Matt is here to set that straight.
Good old G sharp major. There's a G sharp minor if you wanted to go to that.
Okay, well, shall we do the recap?
Let's recap.
We talked about, this whole thing is about mode mixture.
Mode mixture, borrowing chords from the parallel major or minor in the key that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you're in a major key, borrowing notes that are from the minor key of that same name, right, to create chord qualities that you don't otherwise have.
Yes.
So there's typically 3 notes you can borrow from minor: the flat third, the flat 6, or the flat 7.
Mm-hmm.
With these, we can create things like minor 4 chords.
Mm-hmm.
We can also create diminished chords, diminished 2 chords, 2 half diminished 7 chords. We can create 7 fully diminished 7 chords, which are all chords that are not diatonic to the major key.
Not by a stretch.
And these chords will continue to have their same function and everything, but they'll have this chromatic element from these new notes that gives it more flavor and gives it more drama and emotional sort of pinch.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's a lot of different things we can do with those. We can also, if we borrow just a single note, the flat 6, we can create those chords I just mentioned.
Those 4 chords, yeah.
If we borrow a flat 6 and also a flat 3, then we have the option of creating a major flat 6 chord in the minor scale, right? So an A flat chord in C major, right, which has a really interesting sound to it. We can also create a flat major 3 chord, so an E flat major scale in the key of C major, for example, or in any other key. As always, what works in one key works in all of them. And if we borrow all three of those chords, we can even have all three of those notes. We can even have a flat 7 chord, right? Which has got a little Mixolydian mode thing going on with it, right?
Yes, and when you're looking at this on paper or in theory notation or whatever, you're going to see the flat symbol, the uppercase Roman numerals for these letters, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
And that is because it's still the 6th chord, yes, but it's based on a flattened scale degree 6.
Yeah. Good catch. We should mention that.
Okay.
Check out the website. But yeah, you're entirely right. These kinds of modal mixtures, and when in a minor key, when borrowing from a major key, we don't often consider that to be borrowing because the melodic minor and the harmonic minor takes care of a lot of this. It gives us the same options. Some big examples of when that does work is the Picardy third, in which we end any key in any song in a minor key on a major chord version of the tonic, right? So a key in G minor ending on a G major chord, for example. And the other big example is occasionally it is prudent to consider the major 4 chord in a minor key to be borrowed from the major scale. Even though the melodic minor mode takes care of the possibility of a major 4 chord, still some theorists will call that a borrowed chord.
Well, if you're playing in a minor key and you hit a major chord, you're going to hear something.
Yeah, and
a major 4 chord specifically.
Yeah. And what's important is how it sounds, right? Not what theorists call it.
Oh, there's that. We're talking about music, right?
Yeah, don't tell any of my theorist friends I said that. They'll get all mad at me. But it's the truth. I'm sorry.
You didn't open your dissertation with that line?
That was the first line of my dissertation.
Ah, yes.
You people are a bunch of morons sitting around arguing about nothing.
That is so punk rock, Matt.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. I mean, I wanted to agree, not an argument. So,
yes.
Yeah. But this kind of mode mixture, as is true for much chromaticism, is a good vehicle for modulation. In fact, you can find yourself modulating into keys that are very, very distant from the keys that you started with. So not just modulating to the scale degree 5 or scale degree 4 or even scale degree 2 or anything, but even further away from that. And that is something we will talk about in future episodes.
Nice.
Yeah, and that is modal mixture in a nutshell.
Yes, sir. Great, man. Well, what do we have to talk about next, actually, in theory-wise? I know we're going to have some special topics, I'm sure.
We're going to have some special topics and stuff come up because those are fun. Coming up theory-wise, there are other types of chromaticism. So we've done the secondary dominant thing. We've done the secondary 7th chord thing. We have done the modal mixture thing. And now we are going to continue branching into other types of chromaticism that creates even other possibilities. For our chromatic chords. And then we will talk about how to use all of this chromaticism to get into really, really far away keys. And then go from there.
Yeah. Sky's the limit, right?
Oh, there's so much stuff we could talk about.
Yeah.
We still have to talk about Neo-Riemannian chords.
Ooh, yeah. Shakarian theory.
Shakarian theory. Narratology.
Ooh, look out. Musicology, ethnomusicology.
Musicology and ethnomusicology.
So you guys just keep on listening.
Yeah, we might skip set theory. You're welcome.
Yeah. If anything, maybe we can touch or give a history lesson, but I'm not going to.
We may briefly touch on, yeah.
You don't want to sit there on the piano and make a whole bunch of tone rows and all that stuff?
I mean, I can totally teach you to do that if that's what you
I might want to learn it, but I don't think I want to do it.
We'll put a Facebook poll up. Do you want to learn what set theory is?
Yeah, absolutely, man, because there's some people who might even be bigger nerds than us, Matt.
I scarcely think that's possible, but I guess anything could be out there.
We love to nerd out, and we love to continue nerding out.
And thank you for nerding out with us. And we will see you next time.
And just like that, a whole new spectrum of possibilities for your compositions. Now get out there and do something with it. And let us know how it goes at info@musicstudent101.com. And if you like this podcast, be sure to tell a friend.